Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this last peace conference panel, a call to reopen Afghan refugee pathways. I'm Patricia Boyette, an associate professor of history here and the moderator of this panel. And I want to thank all of you for being here and all of my roundtable guests. I'm going to start by introducing Nagini Khalili. Professor Nagini Khalili is the director of the Women's Resource Center here. She began her legal career as the first female prosecutor in Gore province, where she grew up, and she's a renowned lawyer focused on gender and the elimination of violence against women. She later served as the chief prosecutor for the Attorney General's Office of Afghanistan. And next to her, we have Mr. Fareed Hamidi. He served as the Attorney General of Afghanistan from April 2016 to 2021. His notable achievements include implementing significant reforms in the Attorney General's office, advocating for women's rights and gender equality in the justice sector, leading efforts to modernize legal precedents, and promoting transparency and accountability in legal proceedings. And next we have Sean Van Diver is the founder of AfghanEvac and principal at Gaslamp Consulting, where he works with leaders across government, business, civil society to drive meaningful change on issues of national security, refugee resettlement, and civic innovations. He has played a key role in reshaping U.S. efforts to support Afghan allies, working alongside policymakers, military leaders, and humanitarian organizations to ensure safe pathways for those at risk. Sean is also a Navy veteran. Next to Sean, we have Jessica Bradley Rushing, served as the Deputy Director for Communications and Engagement in the Office of the Coordinator for Afghan Relocation Efforts, CARE, in the State Department's South and Central Asian Affairs Bureau. She previously worked on veteran and immigration issues in the office of Congressman Bill Keating in Massachusetts, where she served as a congressional lead for AfghanEvac, a coalition of more than 200 organizations working alongside the U.S. government on Afghan relocation and resettlement operations, and she's an Army veteran. And finally, we have Amy Sims. Amy Sims has been at the forefront of Afghan refugee assistance and evacuation efforts since August 2021. Her work has directly facilitated the successful evacuation and international resettlement of numerous at-risk individuals and families. As the founder of the nonprofit Fill the Needs, Amy has also been pivotal force and disaster relief efforts across the United States and beyond, and she wears many hats. She's also a major entrepreneur in the city. So welcome all my panelists. I'm going to start that roundtable by speaking with Nagina Khalili and Fareed Hamidi. I want to ask you a little bit about your work in Afghanistan and how it related to the goals of the Republic of Afghanistan in the United States.
Thank you so much, Patricia and Marcelo. Thank you for having us in this way, Spirited the panel. My name is Nagina, as you mentioned. So I grew up and also raised in Afghanistan and worked for Attorney General Office of Afghanistan, and I have the privilege of working with Mr. Hamidi. And I also appointed when he was Attorney General of Afghanistan, and I started my work as a first women prosecutor in Afghanistan. In Gore province, which I investigated cases regarding elimination of violence and domestic violence, honor killing, forced marriage, and urban marriage in Gore province. Besides that, I also was a woman activist and human rights activist and professor at Rana University Law School, where I did a lot of advocacy for women's rights in that time. I can say, like, during Republic Islamic of Afghanistan, there was a lot of achievements for women's rights and also gender equality. Even we had 30% of female prosecutor in Attorney General Office of Afghanistan, more than 250 female judges in Afghanistan, and also we had women in the cabinet, in the parliament, and also the senator, which was, I believe, the achievement after the first regime of Taliban in 1996. And millions of girls and women, they were able to work and also to study and go to university and school. I can say that was a golden time for the people of Afghanistan and also for the women of Afghanistan for having their rights and also raising their voices and working and have the basic and fundamental their freedoms, which is not now. Thank you.
Thank you for having me here in this prestigious conference. As Nidina mentioned here, she was the first prosecutor in the War province. If you search the New York Times and Washington Post, the War province is a deeply conservative and male-dominated province of Afghanistan, and there is a lot of histories, stories of severe violation against women. And she was the first female prosecutor in that province assigned there to fight against violation against women. And when I was appointed as the Attorney General of Afghanistan, the participation number of women in the organization was below 3% in 2016. With the support of the Afghan government and civil society involvement of Afghanistan and the families of Afghans, and also with the support of United States, it's worth to mention the support of the U.S. Embassy in Kabul and also the USAID support for providing financial and technical support for one of initiatives for Attorney General Office to raise the participation of women in Afghanistan. And we bypassed many laws and many procedures to overcome this and appoint in all over 34 provinces of Afghanistan in the units of fighting against violation of women, female prosecutors to lead that department in all provinces of Afghanistan. And we trained 247 female, graduated, talented, young ladies of Afghanistan by the support of the U.S. Embassy and also USAID there. It was a small number of amount of money. It was not millions. It was like $150,000. But we raised the participation rate of the Attorney General Office in entire country by 20%. Before that, it was below 3%. And this was the help and support of the United States here. When people in the United States hearing or listening about Afghanistan, they were just thinking about war in Afghanistan and United States occupation in Afghanistan. This was not this one. People of Afghanistan appreciate the support and help of United States and another international coalition forces led by United States to bring peace, security, building institutions, supporting the government of Afghanistan, supporting the democracy, democratic institutions, women in Afghanistan. In 2001, before the United States come to Afghanistan, the number of women going to school and girls going to school or work in the society was zero, total zero. But in 2002, 2 million girls went to schools. It was a big achievement. And the achievements that Afghanistan made in past 20 years by the presence of United States and international community, it was unprecedented in the history of Afghanistan. Occupation is not good, and I'm not supporting this one. But in a country with 4 decades of conflict and war and no political solution there, I think the support of United Nations, the support of United States, and the support of international community at least provided a chance to the people of Afghanistan to enjoy the peace, to send their children, girls to school, and they achieve education, skills. This was a big achievement in Afghanistan. Besides that, we have failures, we have problems. There was a lot of problems that resulted to 2021, and all those gone in just 24 hours. As Nigida mentioned here, when I was appointed Attorney General of Afghanistan, the most difficult job of the war. it was to be Attorney General of Afghanistan. In a country with 4 decades of violations, lawlessness, warlordism, drug trafficking, drug lords, uh, organized crimes, and also the warlords and political power of the country, with having thousands of armed mates and also governmental positions. And unfortunately, when I became the Attorney General of Afghanistan, for the first time, there was a unity government. The unity government was as a result of conflict of election in Afghanistan, and both candidates, they became 50% of the government of Afghanistan. And for the Attorney General of Afghanistan was very difficult to go to the path to not support each of these campaigning teams, because these campaigning teams remain campaigning teams at the end of that 5 years of the Republic of Afghanistan. And just they were suing each other, they were put pressure on each other. And it was very difficult for me to keep this organization, keep justice organization out of politics there. Dealing with the skyrocketing of expectation of the people of Afghanistan, to deal with the past 40 years of severe international crimes like war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide happen in Afghanistan, and also in a lawless country, implementation of law and order and bringing justice and supporting human rights. This was a huge problem. Why I'm here to call the policymakers of the United States, the people of United States. Sean is here, Jessica is here, and Hazy is here. I appreciate their supports in past 4 years to bring and to develop policies and also programs to support Afghans. They need to be educated. But the attorneys of Afghanistan, the prosecutors of Afghanistan, remain behind, left behind, forgotten. During past 20 years, at least more than 50,000 Taliban leaders, commanders, and people of the Taliban, they arrested. If they were arrested in the heat of combats, and also according to the intelligence informations, they handed over to the Attorney General office for implementation of law, for justice, for being responsible for their crimes. And at least there is no Taliban. Maybe there is a small number of Taliban, maybe 10 or 12. They didn't serve in jails of the country. All those Taliban tried by prosecutors, investigated, interrogated, and persecuted, and punished legally for their crimes against people of Afghanistan. We were a big part of fight against terrorism in Afghanistan. Fight against terrorism in Afghanistan was not just in combat fields. It was at the field, in the courts. It was by law. And the leading force of this one was prosecutors. But when the withdrawal came in 2021, no one asked about the fate of those prosecutors. Left it behind. It was not included in any categories of the evacuation. There was many categories, but the prosecutors of Afghanistan was not this one. The Taliban members was released in Afghanistan after, according to that Bonn agreement between United States and the Taliban, 5,000. I was in charge of that one. The people of Afghanistan was against this one. And this was a promise of the government of the United States with the Taliban. But we cooperated and released this 5,000, and all these 5,000 joined a fight against the government of Afghanistan. And those 5,000, out of 17,000 on that time, 17,000 of Taliban was in jails of the country. And those 5,000 was the commanders, the leaders, and the very important part of the Taliban. Even I lost 5 of my young talented, brave prosecutors when they were going to process this release of Taliban and background detention centers. As you know the background detention center name. Taliban were there. And the other group of Taliban attacked and killed all these five prosecutors in one morning in 22nd of June 2020. The embassy of United States condemned this one. Mr. Khalilzad condemned this incident in Afghanistan. But when the chaos came, no one asked about prosecutors, and all prosecutors left it behind. Especially, I have concern about those female prosecutors bravely fight against violation against women in Afghanistan. And all those violators of women in Afghanistan, they were linked with the Taliban, and now they are serving in high positions of the government of Afghanistan. You can imagine 50,000 of Taliban served in jails of the country. Now the ministers, the deputy ministers, the governor, the chief of police, the armies of the Taliban made by those people. And they know each of these prosecutors. They spent at least 9 months of investigation and an interrogation of the due process with these prosecutors. What will happen after they are in power? And I was in United States when the collapse came in Afghanistan, because I stepped down in March 2021, 5 months before the collapse of the government. And I came here to finish my study in Kennedy School of Government in Harvard, and I was in Afghanistan. On that day, I called many people in Kabul and also in DC, emailed many people, sent letters to many people, but no one responded to me. The chaos was not just in the Kabul airport. The chaos was here too. And those forgotten heroes in Afghanistan, now they fled the country, fled from one hill to another hill into Pakistan and Iran. The day after tomorrow, the Pakistanis, the close date for mass deportation of Afghans from Pakistan. The day after tomorrow, and 1st April, many of my colleagues, they are in the list of deportation to Afghanistan back to hand it over to the Taliban. From Iran too. And after that, by the support of many organizations, we managed to meet with the Association of Prosecuting Attorneys of the United States. And we had a lot of meetings. And they started a campaign of prosecutors for prosecutors. The AfghanEvac groups was a supporter of this initiative. And we were processing at least a couple of hundreds of my prosecutors in Pakistan, in Iran, and also in Afghanistan, in hiding in a very dire situation. We registered that this campaign, prosecutors for prosecutors, process for the P1 category visas, at least 200 or 300 of out of 7,000 prosecutors and other employees of the Attorney General Office. And it was in the process that the new administration came and the whole process stopped. And unfortunately, those prosecutors was not in the list of not just the United States, the list of other European allies, the list of other our international allies. And I don't know what was the issue, but this is a nightmare for me and for my colleagues. And every day I am dealing with this one to ask about the situation of my colleagues in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, in Iran, in other neighboring countries, and they left behind. And I here not to tell the story. I here to call on the people of United States, the government of United States. The plight of a prosecutor is very painful, and those people left it behind there because we were a big part of fight against terrorism in Afghanistan, as I mentioned. We fought by law and by justice and by order, not by weapon. My colleagues deserve support. My colleague deserve to be in a safe country or safe environment, and they are in hiding now in Afghanistan, and this is a very dire situation. We can uh, uh, utilize this lessons and experience of lefting behind all those brave men and women in Afghanistan, at least to use these lessons and experiences for the future. We cannot fix the past. We cannot undo all those things happened in the past. But you have the present and you have the power to influence and to make your promises to the people of Afghanistan. And this is now the time to send a message, a strong message. We are in our promises to our allies of wartime. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate too that you shared because I think so much in America we see the war. We didn't see so much of the amazing work that you all did, and it's been my great honor of my lifetime to get to know Nagina. She's been working here at Loyal and learning a lot about that. So before we go on to that evacuation efforts, I just want to give you a chance, Nagina, to share what it was like growing up, and because you grew up in that transition as a child from when the Taliban was in until U.S. came, and then a transition again. So just want to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about what that was like and what it was like for you then to get an education and have this extraordinary career that you had in Afghanistan, and then to lose it all when we left.
Thank you so much, Patricia. I think this is not just about my story, it's about the story of thousands or maybe the millions of young girls who were in Afghanistan and also raised in a situation where it was very difficult. And again, being woman, that in every place is challenging, but it's more challenging to be a woman in Afghanistan. As you see the reports and everything, Afghanistan is the worst place for women in the world. And before 2001, in 1996, my mother, she was a teacher and she was educated and worked. But when the Taliban came in power in 1996, she was fired by the Taliban government and she didn't have a job. My father was the same. They start working in the land as a foreigners to feed me and also my siblings. And also, I can say in that time, I was the witness of my cousins, my relatives, and the family, which they have girls, and they didn't know about their rights. They were uneducated. There was no school, no university, no work. I can say like at that time it was like a present, the same thing that we are now in Afghanistan, and was a witness one time. My mom and also and I went to buy grocery, and the Taliban beat a woman in front of 1,000 people, and they said like the girls like that woman was because she didn't wear like socks and she wore heels, and that's why there also was a lot of violation. They asked my mother to give me a burqa, like which is to cover myself. Even in that time, I was very very young, and necessary as well. Then we moved to War Province, and my cousins and no one like in that province know about education. And that time was the time that my cousins she got married at the age of 12, and also by other cousins. So it was not just about my family. I saw like many girls in Afghanistan was getting married at that time. And for me, the biggest dream was to go to school and also study. And because my mother was educated, she started a home school for kids and also for especially for the girls. Many people they refused to send their daughters to that school, and it was hiding because if the Taliban knew about it, there was a punishment for my family. And I learned the basic of alphabets and reading and writing in home with my mother. And after the collapse of 1996, the first regime of Taliban, in 2001, when the US and also the international community came in Afghanistan, we got the opportunity to go to school for the first time. And my mother was the first teacher in Dawlatur district in the whole province, and my sisters and I also was the first girls that went to school, because my family, they knew the power of education, and they were open-minded. They wanted to raise kids that they can be able to change their future and not be just uneducated and be in home. And it was not easy, because first we fought with the culture. It was not that much common for girls to go and study, and it would be easy. First of all, there was no like script that we have in the US. There was no building, no chairs, no desk, and even there was no notebook or like book, lack of books and lack of notebooks. The people was very poor and in poverty because of no works, and also the situation with the Taliban brought in Afghanistan. But after that, when I went to high school, I started working with national radio as a journalist, and made programs for children, for reading stories and also poems, articles. And then there was a lot of things about me and my family. The people was against that, and they asked my fathers, why you're sending your daughter? Because the voice of a woman is not given to men, to her, according to their beliefs. And they said it's haram when a woman is speaking a radio and the man can hear her voices. And my family, and especially my mom, she said no, like it's not the way that you're saying. And she fought a lot and advocate for women to know their rights. And then when I graduated from high school in 2010, I also wrote an open letter to President Barack Obama and to the people of United States, and thanked them for coming in Afghanistan and gave us this opportunity to be able to go to school and university and work and talk. And there was like, we had a voice, like to people can hear us and raise our problems and concerns, or challenge the government and see protest and everything like democracy and human rights. And after graduation, when I appointed as a prosecutor in Bor province, many people, and especially the Taliban and also other groups, they were against me, and they asked the government and the governor to find me and not allow a woman to be a prosecutor. According to their beliefs, women cannot make a decision, especially for the criminal cases. And they say because she's emotional, she's kind, and they cannot make a decision. But I stood in that time, and I wanted to bring changes. That was my commitment to my people, and also to, especially for Afghan women in that area. That was a male-dominated country, especially in all province, male-dominated province, and very conservative. And it was not easy to go and also work. There was security issues. Every day we received a lot of threats from the Taliban, the other groups, and they put letters during the night in our house, and they asked me to leave my job. And also they asked my family, if I don't let my job, they will kill me and family members. It was every day I received letters from National Security Department, which they say like, you're under the toilet and be careful. And sometimes I changed my route and also my time. Sometimes I left early, and sometimes I came late to be safe. And that's why in 2017, because of a lot of threats against me, I started to apply for a scholarship in the United States and came here, maybe like the threats coming down. And I came here and I got my master's degree from Ohio Wesleyan University. And then in that time, it was also a lot of challenges in Afghanistan. Every day there was bomb attack, and it was a time like the United States started with the Taliban negotiation, and also it was Doha agreement. And some of my friends, they told me to not come back, and I had a commitment and said no, I will go back and bring changes. There was a hope to help people. And I remember so many of the people, the relatives, they didn't know that I'm here in the US. And when I graduated, so they saw some of my pictures, and I received a lot of messages from the people and also from the Taliban that they said you are spying for the United States and you are westernizing US culture in Afghanistan, and so your killing is legal for us and you should be killed. And it was not just for me, but I'm sure like for other prosecutors, judges, it was a big problem to work in justice sector and investigate those cases, the criminals who were part of the Taliban and their ideology was the same like the Taliban. And but I went back to Afghanistan beside all of these challenges and the problems, and to make help people and also to bring changes in Afghanistan. In 2018, I started working as a director of juvenile prosecution office of Afghanistan in Kabul province, where I investigated many cases regarding the Taliban members, the juvenile who were members of the Taliban and ISIS group and others groups who were in Afghanistan, and they were part of them. Uh, Still at that time, there was many challenges for me, as Mr. Hamidi mentioned about our colleagues. The Taliban made a prize for prosecutors. If a person killed a prosecutor, there was, I think, $1,000 prize for it. So think like this situation was, and we lost many of our colleagues and prosecutors who worked in Attorney General office, not just in Kabul but every provinces. They were in target, and there was a crisis. So at that time, Mr. Hamidi is here, and he was witness the Taliban being an attorney and also being a woman in Afghanistan was not easy, and it was more challenging. We sacrificed a lot. I lost my family member. The Taliban killed my family member, and also many other prosecutors. They were forced to left their jobs because of this insecurity and because of what happened, and they faced challenges for what they did. It was not, we just work for justice, and the only weapon that we have in that time was a pen. We didn't thought with vegan, and we didn't thought like for anything else. We just wanted to bring peace, and we wanted to bring justice for all of like the people who were in Afghanistan. This was like from the Taliban, but the other part was every case that we investigated, one of the party was not happy with the decision, and even like transparency, everything was there, but one of the party was not happy for the decision that we made during the work. And when we put them in the jail in 2001, what happened? All of these criminals, without background checking, without knowing about what crime they did, the Taliban opened the prison door, and all of these criminals went out, and they looked for revenge. I received a call, and one of them, they told me, like, we will find you and we know what to do. It was like a dietary, so he wants to kill me. And many of my friends, my colleagues, they are still in Afghanistan, they are hiding. And now all of the achievements that we had according for laws and also for Afghan women rights, now they're zero. We don't have the Department of Elimination of Violence Against Women in Attorney General Office. The Taliban fired all of these women who worked as a prosecutor in Afghanistan. They abolished the Human Rights Commission in Afghanistan, the Ministry of Women Affairs in Afghanistan. So now we can say, like, you remember like Kuwait and United States in 2019, I think, or 2020. It's the same for Afghan women. It's about 4 years they are quarantined for not be able to go outside, not be able to go study, not be able to go work, and also even their voices should not be raised when they are outside of the house. They are not allowed to travel alone. They are not allowed to even speak to friends when they are going outside. So think about these issues, like how much is hard if we compare like 2024 and 1996. I can say the situation is more than worse in 1996 for the people of Afghanistan and also for women of Afghanistan.
Thank you, Nagina. Oh, I'm going to bring the rest of our panelists in, and then I'm going to come back and talk about some more stories from Afghanistan, because I think it's really important for all of us to know about the Afghanistan efforts, but to understand the incredible work that they did in Afghanistan. And, you know, so much will we get as the war news, but these are these amazing stories and the incredible work that you did for women's rights. And we're learning from you. You're here. She's now the director of the Women's Resource Center here and bringing her brilliant work here. But let me turn over to the other side of the panel there. And I want to ask each of you how you all got involved in Afghanistan. So just go 1, 2, 3.
Sure. Thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you everybody who's out there. I know that there are audio issues on the live stream, and we'll overlay a good sound file later on. Look, my name's Sean. I'm a Navy veteran. I got involved in this because on August 15th, I got a call from my buddy. My buddy Lucky said, "Brother, I'm stuck on this mountain in Rangoon, 8 hours outside of Kabul. We're surrounded by the Taliban. We're running out of ammunition. I think I'm going to die. Will you grant my last wish and get my family back to San Diego?" Now, Lucky was an SIV, Special Merit Visa recipient. He had come to San Diego at the end of 2016. We met the first month of 2017. Funnily enough, we met at a press conference that I had called as the leader of a big group in San Diego, trying to make sure the president knew that a travel ban would have an impact on our wartime allies. Then we find ourselves in that position again. Lucky made it. Lucky stole a jingle truck, talked his way through 10 Taliban checkpoints. I had been dropped into 20 signal chats, trying to help my buddy and then trying to help other people, just regular Americans from all over the country. And I got this message, "Brother, I made it to the airport." I was like, "What? I thought you were dead." But we had started something, right? What I had noticed was that there were all these signal chats, these WhatsApp groups, these Facebook chats, these Slack groups from people like me who I didn't serve in Afghanistan. I served up to this Iraq. Iraq was my war. I watched ISIS storm through Father's Day weekend of 2016, just like Taliban stormed through. So there were a bunch of veterans that served in Afghanistan, a bunch of folks that didn't serve in Afghanistan, a bunch of diplomats, frontline civilians. Every part of the American experience was represented in all of these chat rooms. And one thing that I knew as an emergency manager was that we were going to get people killed if we didn't work together. And it was so important. So we started a sync call. I had gotten into management consulting, and I said, "This is what we needed. We need more meetings." We had a morning call and an evening call, 12 hours in between, and we gave people 45 seconds. The Navy probably remembers these, right? We gave people 45 seconds to speak from each group that came. By the end of August, we had 50 groups. It was 15 seconds in the beginning to say, "What did you just do over the last 12 hours?" 15 seconds to say what you were going to do over the next 12 hours. And 15 seconds to say, "What do you need?" And we checked our egos at the door. Everybody was very special, and like they knew this person, knew that person. There was one moment where our colleague March said, "Hey, everybody's really important here. Tell us what we need to know. Like, we don't care what story you're writing or what this you're doing." And it was really wonderful. It was hands down the most American thing I've ever done, and I served in the Navy for 12 years. Now, at the end of August, we all thought we would pivot to resettlement, right? We thought that this would stop and that we would help all of our folks that got here, or at the end of whenever the evacuation stopped. And the flights did stop. At the end of August, the flight stopped. But very quickly, a broad cross-section of society stood up to help, and we got involved with government, and we built this extraordinary, I like to describe AfghanEvac as a coalition, right? The coalition, or I'm sorry, an organization. The organization is the group that I run. Part of what we do as a nonprofit is manage a coalition of, at our peak, 250 groups, 250 plus groups. and then a movement, right? There are people that are not involved in AfghanEvac for one reason or another. They want to go it alone. They have a different pathway, whatever it is. But broadly, we agree that we need to take care of our wartime allies. We made some promises. And if we don't keep those promises, our national security is at risk and the lives of folks who stood with us, Shauna Bashana, shoulder to shoulder, are at risk. So I got involved because of Lucky, and I stayed involved because of the incredible people across this country from every part of the American experience that stood up and said, hell no, we're not going to let this go.
Thank you. Jessica.
Thank you. So first, thank you. It's honored to be part of this panel. When Kabul fell in August of 2021, I was working for a congressman in Massachusetts, and there was a big crossover, I think, between folks who worked on veterans issues, which is what I did at the time, and folks who worked on this Afghan relocation issue. As Sean said, there were signal chats popping up all over the place. There were, group chats, and people were looking for ways to help the folks that they had worked alongside in Afghanistan. So as someone who worked in the congressional office at the time doing casework, I had tons of folks reaching out to me saying, what are you hearing in Congress? How can we help our person, our interpreter, our driver, or whomever we worked with? They're stuck in there and they're looking for ways to get out. I opened my laptop on the, Sunday was the day that Kabul fell. Monday morning, I opened my laptop to get to work and was just inundated with similar requests from constituents in the district where I worked who had been in the military or were still in the military or knew someone who was stuck in Kabul, was stuck in Afghanistan, looking for a way to get out. I heard about the work that Sean was doing because we were both involved in a national security organization. And I reached out to him because on the Hill, there were a huge group of congressional caseworkers who were getting similar requests all over the country, thousands and thousands and thousands of requests. And there were hundreds of caseworkers who were trying to assist those folks who were looking for a way to help their person. At the time, there were, 250 people was the max you could have in a Teams chat for a congressional Teams chat. And we maxed out the Teams chat within the first couple of days because there were so many folks working on these issues across the Hill. And I reached out to Sean and said, for folks who were working on the congressional side, if your boss was on one of the committees of jurisdiction that was getting regular briefings from the executive branch in the US government, State Department, DOD, then your office had some information about what was happening. But in those last 2 weeks of August, there were folks who were working on this whose boss was not on the House Foreign Affairs Committee or the Senate Foreign Relations Committee or the Armed Services Committees. Their boss was on the Agriculture Committee, but their office was still getting inundated with requests to help. And so we tried to create sort of an information sharing bridge so that the folks who were working directly on these cases were getting the information they need from the executive branch as well. And from there, I went on to work with AfghanEvac for a long period of time and then actually transitioned over to the State Department, where I worked in the executive branch for the last 2 years, actually literally in the office for the coordinator for Afghan relocation efforts. And so I was the acting director and the deputy director for communications and engagement there. So this has been a really interesting 4 years essentially of my life where I've seen this from the congressional side, from the civil society side, and from the executive branch side. And I know that, without the push from civil society, the US government would not have been as effective as we actually ended up being over the course of the last few years in ensuring that we stood up operations to continue relocating and resettling Afghan allies. And so that work continues, but in the past 2 months, there has been a significant change in the tenor of those operations, and sort of all of the movement, all of the processing has been paused since January.
Thank you for your work, Amy.
So I'm here in New Orleans. I'm Amy Sins. I'm here in New Orleans. I'm a chef and an entrepreneur. I also run a disaster relief org, mostly focused on floods and hurricanes because that's what we have here. My neighbor got me involved in a program here in New Orleans called Global New Orleans that sponsors families or the State Department to come to their house for dinner. And it's part of the IVLP program. And we had a group that came to a chef's house for dinner and went to my neighbor's house for dinner. In 2019, I was able to interact with a group from Afghanistan. And when Afghanistan fell, I reached out to everyone on Facebook and said, "Are you okay? Is your family okay? What do you need?" And I got quite a few responses back. But one, there was a family, the husband was out of the country on business. His wife and his two little girls were alone. He was at high risk. He had worked in the US Embassy. They were separated, and he was beside himself, devastated. And he said, "Amy, can you help keep my little girls safe?" Now, when someone asks you that question, what do you say? Yes. But I had no idea what I was doing. So I treated it kind of like a flood, because I found that every disaster seems to follow the same cycle and the same patterns, whether it's lack of communication, lack of information, danger, triage, rescue, assessment. All of that follows the same pattern. So I said, I am committed to helping your little girls. Once that happened, more people started to call me. And the next thing you know, I was a one-woman evacuation team that needed help. I think it's critical that the relationships that we make in this room today, the relationships that we make in everyday life, they're going to come back full circle. A group that I helped during Hurricane Laura just happened to be the Green Berets. Had no idea at the time that I helped to rebuild their homes and get supplies into their community. And a pastor said, "Call this guy." And the next thing you know, we're moving 18 families through Kabul, trying to get people to the airport. And you realize, holy cow, these are real lives of real people, and I have got to help. I've got to do everything in my power. And I'm just a girl with a cell phone that gets signal and WhatsApp that just happens to know a few people. And from that moment forward, I've been committed to assisting families and also to not accepting no for an answer. For those of you that were here during Hurricane Katrina, you know that you just keep asking until you get yes when you're dealing with a government agency. So I was not going to accept no for an answer, which meant that though a lot of my colleagues were focused on one path and one path only, I wanted to think outside of the box. And safety and security for the families that I was helping, that was critical to me, and anything that I could do in my life to help make that happen or to bring people to the table was my goal.
Thank you. And we're going to get at the end to things that we can all do as a community to help too. But I want to bring real quickly back to Nagina. I want to ask you a little bit about that last day and what it was like, and also to Mr. Meady about you trying to get people out, and anything you want to say about families or people you know that are still there, and then take it over to y'all to see how we can connect, right? So Nagina.
Yes, August 15, I was in Afghanistan, and beside all of the activities and also advocacy for what was going on in Afghanistan, we was the witness to see every day one of the provinces collapse, and we talk with the ambassador of US Embassy and share our concern about the future situation and also the challenge maybe the future. But everyone mentioned to us that the Taliban will not take Kabul, and if there is anything happen, there will be like a peaceful transfer of the government to like one side to the another side. And also the Taliban promised that they will not close the door of schools and universities. So they promised that the people of Afghanistan, they will do whatever they are doing now. And also they talk about the freedoms and everything. But from the first, I was not believed on Taliban because we knew them. They always kept promises, but they revoked their promises, and they were not the groups that to believe. In August 15, I left home and went to my office. It was 8 o'clock, And that day, the situation was different from the normal days. I saw the street, like the people was very worried, and also everyone was seemed very sad. And I didn't see like many soldiers in the area, but then I moved to my office and I saw my colleagues and say hi and we talk about the situation. And that time, Afghanistan was not in a good place. And then I started working, and there was two female clients that they came with me, and they shared their problems. And I started investigating and writing. Then it was 11 o'clock that one of my colleagues came and she told me um, the Taliban came in Kabul and they are close to Kabul University that time. And I remember, so it's for me a nightmare, and I cannot forget that day. And also it's so for me, and I'm sure like for thousands or millions of people of Afghanistan, is still a nightmare. I couldn't believe like all of these things, all of this achievement in 20 years is collapsed in a second. And the people and the woman and everything, I was shocked, and I was not able to stand. And I said, like, what should I do? What will happen? My mind was like busy with this question. I said, maybe they are coming to kill me and also my family. If they don't kill me, like, what will happen? Can I work? Can I go to high school? What will happen to the case, like my sisters? And so my colleagues came back to me, and also my driver said, like, leave the office because they are coming to here, and if they keep, they will kill everyone who are in the office. I saw like my colleagues, they went to the kindergarten to get their kids, and everyone was crying, it was screaming. And I'm sure you saw like, zombie movies when they're coming in the street and the people, they just want to like flee or like hide in a safe place. It was the same thing in that day in Afghanistan. Everyone, they left everything that they had in the street. Many, they left their cars, like their shops was open. They just want to go and find a safe place. Then our house to my office was 20 minutes by car, but in that day it took like almost 3 hours for me to get home. But even I couldn't, so I stopped to go by car. All of the street was blocked. The people was screaming, the kids, especially for women. I was with my formal dress, and some of the boys they crossed me and they looked at me and they told me, because of you, like woman, the Taliban came, and now we want to see like how you can go and also work and also save freedoms and save women rights. And I was crying and said like, what should I do? Then I arrived home. My father and my siblings was there, all of us, because of what happened to my family in the past in 2010. And my family was in the target, and also their name was in the list of the harbor. So we moved to one of our friend house in that night. And before going here, I received calls from the criminals that they investigated, and also received call from my province, one of the Taliban member, that my name is in the list. And we seek like a safe place. And that night, I sent maybe hundreds of emails to any Americans that I knew, and my professors in the State Department, anyone that I have emails, and sent them email and asked for help, and asked to help me and also my family. And in that day, some of them responded to me, and some of them like they tried to help us. And I was almost 9 days from August 15, and then I left Afghanistan August 24, under the Taliban government. Every day when someone knocked the door, I was like, they are coming for me and they want to kill me and also my family. Uh, some of the documents that I had in English, so I wanted to burn it because I afraid if the Taliban came and also find these documents, they will kill me. Even if that was like certificate and also some letters from here. It was not that much important, but because the Taliban are uneducated, they cannot understand English, so that's a crime to have it at that time. And meantime, I was not able to see the Taliban even from the window. I was very scared. And when I saw the movie, the news that the Taliban took Iraq and the presidential place, and also I saw the press conference that they said like everything will be good, so everyone is safe, and they will not kill the previous government of Taliban, and they will not search the houses. But it was a lie. Because the first night they started searching of houses and they looked for guns, they looked for the Portuguese government and for militaries, and they arrested them, and it was not safe that as they mentioned. And 1 week at the Taliban for me was like a hell, and not just for me but for everyone in Afghanistan. And they closed the door of schools and universities, and they asked till the second announcement they asked the women to not come to the work. And meantime, I received a call from State Department. They said my name is in the list of evacuation. I should go to Serena Hotel and there will be a bus for me to take me to the airport. And I asked about my family, like, what about my family? Because my father, he was a military person and also he worked with organization that was funded by the US government. Like you said, my mother was worked for 20 years for organization that was funded by the US government. My sister was journalist. My other sister was provincial council, and all of us was involved with the government and also non-governmental agencies and work for human rights. They said just your name is in the evacuation list and your family is not. I said I will not go without my family, and I took my family and went to the Serena Hotel. There was the first gate was the Taliban, then the Qatarian soldiers, and then also there was a list of people, and they said like the names and everyone. When I back here, dear, so they say, and they asked me the ID and everything, so I gave to them and asked like for my family, but no one helped me that time. And so my father told me, you should go, and I'm sure you will find a way for us, or maybe in the future to came to the US. Even if not, you will be able to work for your people and also help others who are made in Afghanistan and be a voice for them. It was a hard decision in my life, and then I decided to came in the US. Even I didn't know if I came in US or not. And after that, there was a bus, and one of the toilet members he looked at me and asked me why you were leaving your country. I said because of you guys, I'm leaving the country. And he told me, you're so lucky that I didn't find you earlier, and you're now like in the place that Qatarians and also an agreement between the Qatar government and also US, and you're in safety, so I cannot do anything. And then I went to the airport, and he stayed 4 nights in the airport. And there was like I saw thousands of people who were at the airport and they are just seeking help. I'm sure you saw like it was three people that they dropped from the airplanes. And think like why they decided, even they prefer to die but not stay in Afghanistan. And think about like thousands of people, they was just to help to leave Afghanistan because they knew if they were in Afghanistan they were killed, they were prosecuted by the Taliban, and they will have no future in Afghanistan, not just their family but also their kids, especially their daughters and also girls. And after 4 days, I went to Doha for 3 days, and from there to Albania for 7 months to check like the process and all of these documents to came to the United States. And then apply for asylum in US, and took like almost 1 year to get my decision, and apply for green card. Still more than 1 year that I'm on the process. And like me, thousands of people, they are still in Afghanistan and also outside of Afghanistan, just waiting to process their cases. Or like my family, my father, he has P2, and we start the process in 2021, and still they are in the process, and they were scheduled to came in US in March, but unfortunately because of what happened, and like now they cancel the flights, and also they pause all of their process, and we don't know like how long more it will take. and many people they are in the same situation. They are high, they cannot work, they are under security threats, but no one is hearing them. And I don't know, like, what will happen in the future, but that's very important, like, to help them and get them out as soon as possible.
Thank you, Nikki. Mr. Mead, did you want to talk about anyone that's there that you want to bring or anything you want to say about trying to bring people here?
Yeah. The number of prosecutors made to come to United States, I think it will be between 10 to 15 people out of 7,000 prosecutors. And many of them, not because they were prosecutors, they have SIB status, because before joining as a prosecutor with Attorney General Office, they were working as interpreters or employees of the U.S. government. This is not for being a prosecutor. Maybe 5 prosecutors they made to come to United States. In all others, or in Iran, Pakistan, and other neighboring countries, and inside Afghanistan. When the Taliban, before taking Kabul, the capital of Afghanistan, they started from the north of the country, and 10 days before collapse of Kabul, they took the Juzjan province in the north of Afghanistan. On the day they entered the city, they killed one of my prosecutors in his office. This was the first sign of the Taliban animosity about the prosecutors. And then from that incident till now, we have registered 57 of prosecutors killed in Afghanistan, targeted killings. And this number is big because there is no, in remote areas of the country and districts of the country, there is no any access to information. And the Taliban is not investigating cases of killing of people from the former government. There is no any exact number of that one, but we have the number of 57 of Taliban killed, the prosecutors. And many of them, I personally knew these young, talented, brave prosecutors because they were recruited as prosecutors during my time as the Attorney General of the country.
Yeah.
In Afghanistan, there was not just the Taliban fighting against the government of Afghanistan against the United States. There were operating 22 international notorious terrorist organizations, including Al-Qaeda, including ISIS. Beside the 70,000 Taliban was in jails of the country with the Afghanistan collapse. 3,000 ISIS people, including that Muhammad Sharif that 3 weeks ago brought to United States. He was also in detention facilities of Afghanistan. And when the Taliban came to power, they released all those 3,000 ISIS members and other terrorist groups people. Muhammad Sharif was also tried by my prosecutors and punished legally by my prosecutors and the judiciary system of Afghanistan. And now he is facing the judiciary system of United States, and he is here. And the person committed suicide in the Abbey gate of the Blue Gate of airport. He was also released 3 days before this suicide. He was also in the jails of the country. 5,000, maybe between 4,000 and 5,000 people abused their wives and their daughters was also in the jails of the country. All of them released. And unfortunately, these people linked to the Taliban, and the Taliban ordered, the supreme leader of the Taliban ordered to undo all the verdicts of the courts of the governors of Afghanistan during the Republic, and they forced those women separated by the laws of the Republic from their accusers' wives or brothers to remarriage and to go back with the former's aspects. This is another issue And also the Taliban shattered and dissolved the Attorney General office. Afghanistan now doesn't have any office by name of Attorney General. You can imagine the scope of hatred that Taliban has against the name of prosecutor and the name of the Attorney General office. They shuttered and closed all the doors. My colleagues, not just they are facing death and torture and arresting, they starving because they can't go outside for work.
Right.
They have no job there. And before 2025 January and the change of administration appeared, I was working with the State Department. There was small amount of supporting money for people in the very dire situation, and emergency help, like sending them a small amount of money at least to spend their livelihood. And there was another organization, civil society, a non-profit organization. They also provided support, and I was working for them to introduce them, my colleagues from Afghanistan, especially women in Kabul, in Afghanistan, and also in Pakistan. But now all these supporting mechanism for helping outside of the country all stop.
Yeah.
They are starving, they are facing death, torture, and they are in hiding. In Afghanistan, this is the problem of my colleagues, and still I have I'm living physically here, but mentally I'm in Afghanistan with my colleagues. There is no any sleeping night. I'm not in the office. I am not dealing with my colleagues. I'm not responding to their emails, message, text message, voice message, and this is the biggest problem. And every day when I wake up, I am praying to not read a bad incident about my colleagues back in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And after this, I'm opening my WhatsApp, my emails, and my messages. If there is no any incident in Afghanistan, I am thanking God and relax for and have a cup of coffee. This is the situation of my colleagues, and I think many people, they were fighting, they were serving and working with the government of United States. These deserve, and they are also in danger and in dire situation in Afghanistan. But today I am just speaking about my colleagues, the situation of my colleagues, and the work they did for justice, rule of law, and human rights, and providing access to justice for women and for people of Afghanistan. And they fight shoulder to shoulder by pen and by law with your government and your military forces. And they brought to justice, at least together, more than 60,000 terrorists. Now they are all hitting, and they're having weapons from the United States remain in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And by this one, they are pursuing, following, and persecuting my colleagues there.
Yeah.
And still we are working to at least to bring attention of the policy makers about the dire situation of my colleagues. One of the issues that the system, judiciary system of Afghanistan is different from the Western countries. Here, the Attorney General office is part of the Justice Ministry. But in Afghanistan, after the president, the more powerful organization is the Attorney General office. And the more powerful person is the Attorney General of the country. He is not part of any ministry of the country. It's an independent body, and the investigation, interrogation, and persecution are also implementation of the court where this, all of them are the jurisdiction of the Attorney General office. Many jurisdictions and authority that courts have here, all these measures is at the jurisdiction of the Attorney General of the country.
Right.
Because of this different of the system, they think here, and also in the European countries, the attorneys of Afghanistan is not important. The judges are very important, and the courts are very important. but half of the judicial jurisdiction is at the hand of prosecutors in Afghanistan. This is a Russian types or of remained from the past. And because of that, my colleagues, the prosecutors, despite their work and despite their fight against tourism, against drugs, against warlords, against women abusers and organized crimes, they forgot it, they let it behind, and still we are working, and still I'm asking for you people here in this room and also distinguished colleagues in the panel to look at the situation and see what we do, what you can do.
So, thank you. So let me turn over to y'all. I think Jessica first, and then Sean, right? And then Amy to talk about, because I know, Jessica, you worked with the Biden administration. So maybe talk about what was done and what where we are now. Sean can cover that, and then I'll come to Amy.
Happy to. So when the U.S. withdrew from Afghanistan, there was a fear, I think, that continued operations to relocate and resettle Afghan allies would not come to fruition. But the work of organizations like AfghanEvac, like your organization as well, really put some pressure, external pressure on the U.S. government to ensure that these operations continued. So over the course of the last several years, the U.S. government across the interagency really worked hard to put scalable and routine efforts in place to continue to relocate and resettle eligible Afghans who had worked alongside the U.S. mission over the course of the 20 years that we were there. We were successful for the last several years in continuing these operations. At this point in time, nearly 200,000 Afghans have been resettled in this country since the summer of 2021. It has been a remarkable effort. At our peak, we were moving several thousand individuals per month. We would relocate people out of Afghanistan, bring them to a U.S. government-run platform where they could complete their immigration processing before coming here to the U.S. for resettlement. These efforts were an interagency effort across the whole of government, but they were really a whole of society effort, because without civil society pushing and pulling, right? So there was an exchange of information that took place between the U.S. government and civil society. I think was really unique in these efforts, and it was driven by everyday Americans who got those calls in August of 2021. Yeah. And I think the ability for organizations to have that kind of impact on our government is really what drove the success of these operations over the course of the last several years. We had flights on a continual basis every single week. We had people moving on a continual basis to these third country platforms and to the United States, and realistically planned that we would be able to do these operations for several more years in order to achieve, essentially achieve our mission, right? Like keep the promise that we made to everyone who was eligible, whether they were eligible on a visa, a consular pathway,
Right.
or as a refugee.
Right.
And I think I will hand it over to you to talk about where we are now in terms of what those operations look like.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. I want to make a couple points about a few things that you guys have said. Jessica, you just talked about the two different pathways. Consular, so that's your special visas, that's your immigrant visa holders. Those are folks, SIDs are folks that work directly for the United States government, interpreters, drivers, translators, cultural advisors in England. As important, equally deserving of these pathways. There's no difference in the merit, are the refugee pathways, right? So certainly prosecutors, judges, prosecutors, lawyers who put the Taliban into jail and are now in danger. Family of U.S. military, there are 3,000 individual family members of active duty U.S. military who are in the refugee pathway. 200 of them are stuck in Qatar alongside Nagina's family. These are folks that stood up for the idea, journalists, folks that stood up for the idea of America and are now in danger because of who they are or what they did and their relationship to us. So, Jessica talked a little bit, and Amy talked about getting people to safety and security. As important, was making sure that they were coming here on a durable legal pathway, because there was an election coming, right? And we'd heard a lot about immigration. We didn't know what was going to happen, who was going to get elected, or what might happen. But past this prologue, and we were worried that if President Trump were elected, that might mean an end to refugee processing, because that's what happened last time. That's how Lucky and I met. So now we're here.
Yeah.
On January 20th at 11:59 a.m., the capacity existed and the goal and the direction existed that the coordinator for Afghan relocation efforts, in conjunction with AfghanEvac and the interagency, would process 5,000 Afghans a month. 5,000 Afghans would leave Kabul, 60% SIV, 40% refugees, on 28 flights a month to several locations: Qatar, the Philippines, Germany, Albania, or through a different pathway to Pakistan. 12 o'clock on 8 p.m. on election or on inauguration day, that all stopped. 3 executive orders made a major impact. And it's actually, I might get in trouble for this, but we say the things because it's real. You talked about the Taliban, the undo everything that the last administration did. Well, that's exactly what President Trump is doing with these executive orders. He doesn't like President Biden. He wanted to undo all the things that were happening. So Executive Order 14161 is the longest purge. That is protecting the nation against foreign terrorist organizations. There's a report being written right now about which countries don't share enough vetting information with us. Afghanistan is on that list because the Taliban doesn't share vetting information with us. Shocker, right? But also, shocker, we have a lot of information about the prosecutors that worked with us, about Wadira's family, about all of these different folks who have worked with us. And there are people involved in the ecosystem of organizations that are trying to help get people out who have committed fraud. The government knows it, we know it. They don't know that everybody knows it, but we know that the system is working because those people that they're submitting aren't getting through. Number 2, Executive Order 14163. That stopped all refugee processing and admissions. That's why Nagina's family is still stuck in Qatar, because they can't move, they can't process, there can't be additional refugees that are coming. The courts have said that it needs to continue, and they just ignored it. Number 3, Executive Order 14169. That put a stop to all foreign aid. All foreign aid, right? So that might seem far away, might seem like no big deal. All that stuff that we talked about earlier, let's start here at home. Resettlement agencies get funding to meet people at the airport, set them up with housing, jobs, school. You might have friends in college who are in or here at this school, or you might have children who are in school with Afghans because resettlement agencies help set them up. Now, it's not perfect, but resettlement agencies working hand in hand with groups like ours, we had something good going. The 4-8 pause stopped those resettlement agencies from getting funding. They got a stop work order that said, don't spend a dime, don't do anything to help these folks. It also stopped, we talked about those platforms, it also stopped all of the services on those platforms. We had to start a diaper underground railroad because President Trump and his friends said, don't give diapers to these folks through these executive orders. Now, we initially thought it was unintended, but now we know they know. They've had meetings at the White House. The team knows that this is happening, and the clock is ticking. They had a lot to say about President Biden's performance in August, and so did we. They blew it. They screwed it up. They shouldn't have done it the way that they did. They should have gotten people here faster. We're not here to stand for anybody, right? We're here to stand up for Afghans. And that means we have to say that President Trump had a lot of things to say about President Biden in August of 2021. He owes it to the families that he marched down onto the stage at the RNC. He owes it to the families he hearkened every day, every debate. He owes it to every time he's mentioned the word Afghanistan, to the veterans and the frontline civilians who served there, who fought there, who led there, who died there. To restart the system that already was working, 5,000 Afghans a month, 60,000 a year, if he kept it going, if he restarted it, we'd be done by the end of his term. We'd get all 200,000 Afghans left in Afghanistan out, the 50,000 that are waiting outside of Afghanistan, that's it. That's nothing. I heard them talk about the border. I live at the border. They told me that there were 20,000 coming a day. That's 10 days at the border, according to them, right? We can absorb it. So what we have done, we're making sure Afghans know what's happening. A lot of Afghans are watching this now. They're depending on us. They're depending on the folks that stood up. They're looking for a lot of the folks that stood up in August of 2021 and had a lot to say, but have since disappeared, but are doing selfies with Secretary Hegseth to use their voices. That is a message if you're listening. So a lot of us have stood up. We've worked with private funders. You can go to afghanevac.org/self-depart if you're an Afghan with a U.S. visa in your passport, and we'll get you here. But it's only for folks that have current U.S. visas, right? We can't take people to another country. We can't do the processing on their own. And right now, the federal government has stopped all processing except for SIV processing. That can still happen, but there is no help to get out of Afghanistan where there's not consular services. There's no help to get from Afghanistan to another country. And they canceled permanently all of those resettlement contracts that are helping provide a welcoming care home. So some Afghans are trying to come here and find the American dream we promised them wasn't met. Some Afghans are coming here and finding there's no help for them. And the Attorney General is right. It's up to all of us, all of you, everybody out there. And I know that Amy has a lot to say about ongoing efforts.
I think we all have a lot to say. That I think this could be an all-day summit, and we could order a pizza, and we still would not have all the solutions that we needed. But we are also passionate about it. One thing, as an everyday American, I saw how broken the system was and how broken the system still is. And waiting for bureaucracy to hold up their promises, that's not strategy or a solution. And trying to find other strategies and solutions are critical. But for me, I look at negotiations, right? If you're walking away from a negotiation table and everyone's happy, that wasn't that maybe we all need to compromise a little. And that is so hard when we are emotionally involved and lives are in danger. But there are small things that we can do. One of the families that I worked with, they qualified for P1, P2, SIV, and my husband and I sponsored them for humanitarian parole. There is no current system that will consolidate all of those cases and prioritize that family. That family not only is known by the U.S. government, their biometrics are on file. They held U.S. visas in 2019. And an American family was willing to take them and support them, house them, get the little girls in school, and make sure that they were successful members of the community. If we're going to negotiate with our government and we want to walk away from that negotiating table, I say the first step is to say, let's consolidate cases. Let's not move an SIV family where dad and the two kids are on an SIV and mom is on a P1, and now mom is stuck in Afghanistan because only the SIV is processing. If we're worried about the efficiency in government, let's consolidate those processing, because there's probably 5 different government departments processing it, doing background checks, or stamping it saying the other group is working on it, and now everything is effectively stalled. But we don't know the answer to that because those organizations are not all communicating with each other on those cases and pathways. So I think there are ways that we can kind of take some small wins and offer solutions that can be truly tangible and impact families that are in need. So I think there's a lot of solutions we can have that we can bring to the table, and it takes our voices and our passion to make it happen.
Thank you. Do you want to follow up with that?
I just have one thing to mention that I think is really critical for people to understand, and that is that the Afghans who have come here through what is called enduring welcome, which is essentially the system that was stood up by the U.S. government after the withdrawal to ensure that we were continuing these relocation operations. These folks are the most vetted immigration population in our history. They go through multiple rounds of background checks, biometric security checks. This is not a question of us not knowing who these people are who are coming here. That it's false. It's a false statement to say that they are not known to us or that they have not undergone extensive background checks.
Yeah.
It is a legal, secure, safe pathway, and it gives the Afghans who are eligible for immigration here a durable status when they arrive.
Thank you. You know, I was just going to ask you real quick, Sean. I mean, I find it so fascinating that we have prosecutors, right, that were prosecuting terrorists, and or the whole reason that we went into Afghanistan was because we were attacked at 9/11, right? So, I mean, you would know. It just seems like you would know those people are the ones that you bring, right? So why can't we at least do that? And I know you're gonna follow up. Yeah.
So I'm going to follow up on what Jessica was saying. I just want to underscore the point about enduring welcome. Safest, most secure legal immigration pathway in our history. You've heard of extreme vetting. It's more than that. You get a whole bunch of vetting that happens before you leave Afghanistan, a whole bunch more vetting once you get to one of the platforms. If President Trump shuts down this system, he is making our country exponentially less secure. And look, people have to be willing to say that, right? I mean, there's a lot of fear that's going around right now. There's executive orders being directed at law firms, especially around pro bono immigration counsel. And that's creating a chilling effect. But America is built on standing the hell up and speaking your mind and making sure that you fight for what you believe in. And that's what we have to do. Even if you agree with President Trump on lots of other things, have the courage to stand up and say something. And one good thing to say something about is how screwed up our immigration system is, right? When you talk about the various systems, it's because they're all governed by different sets of law in different places, right? P1 and P2 is controlled by the State Department, but you have to get through USCIS to get approved to be a refugee. Whereas SIV is governed by the State Department, you only have to get approved by DHS for vetting at some point. And look, one of the things that we've been asking for at AfghanEvac since day one has been create a vulnerable people's portal or something where all of this information comes to live together so you can identify people who have the highest priority and the highest risk.
Yeah.
The government asked us to come up with a risk matrix for moving refugees. And we looked at them like, you gonna do that? And then we just came up with something, right?
Right.
It has been a comedy of errors, and the most embarrassing thing that I've ever seen from the government perspective, that so many people in civil society have had to stand up and fix their screw-ups, and the most inspirational thing, the most American thing I've ever seen, that people like Edie and Jessica and me and so many people out there have stood up, done what they can, brought what they can to bear. And look, not everybody's built equal, right? There are some bad ideas, but that's okay. The crowd corrects. The crowd figures it out. And we throw spaghetti at the wall and we come up with things that prioritize. We are AfghanEvac and not Digital Dunkirk because we want to prioritize the people who were in trouble. And what I'm so proud that we've done is we've prioritized the people that are in trouble, built on actually an ICS framework, which you may recognize. We did that quietly. It's been extraordinary, and also it's time for the government to step up and fix it. I got an idea for what, if we want to make government more efficient, we can brief Mr. Musk on, I think we're the original Doge. So we'll have to do it right.
So, but corporate, because does anybody else, I'll give you all a chance to say anybody else has last thoughts before we open up to Q&A.
I think it is very important for us to realize that there are so many everyday people that are still fighting. I dedicated 2 years of my life, and I sat on a phone call with the administration at the time who said, we need you to keep doing what you're doing. You're doing our job for us. And
Infuriating.
took all of my energy because I said that you're paid to do this job. I'm doing this out of my heart. And if there is a way that we can raise our voices and just ask for some accountability in the process, why does it take this long? Why is it so difficult? I don't believe in bringing a problem and complaining about it. I believe you bring a problem, you bring 3 solutions. And if there was an opportunity to sit down with leadership and say, here are all the solutions. Now tell me, why can't we do this? And maybe, just maybe, our voices can be heard and we can help make the path a lot easier because we've blazed the trail for people.
I want to thank you, Sean, Jessica, Amy, and all of your colleagues and friends for working tirelessly in past 3 or 4 years for supporting Afghans. One of the better jokes that many times I advised for bringing prosecutors to United States to encourage your colleagues in Afghanistan to apply for lottery visas. And I thought, sorry, this is a humiliation of my colleagues that they bravely fight against tourists and all those tourists to go to apply for lottery visas, to wait for 20 years in Taliban rule in Afghanistan and Pakistan, to be selected amongst hundreds of thousands of people to be able to come to United States. Yeah, this was one of the advices.
Look, we put a lot of information in your head today. It probably felt like a fire hose. It's really complex. It's really nuanced, but at least at AfghanEvac, we try to make it simple. You can go to our website, see like our social media, and see all the ways that we try to break it down. But the most important thing that you can take away from this is that it's a matter of our national honor and our national security to stand by, not just the prosecutors, but every Afghan who stood up for the idea of America, took some action, and is now at risk because of their relationship with folks like us. And if you do that, if you make sure that your elected officials and everybody around you knows how important this is to you personally, I believe we can still push and make this thing happen.
So the one thing I would like people to know is that it is possible to turn this all back on, but that the longer we wait, the harder it becomes. The infrastructure that was put in place over the course of the last few years won't stay in place unless people continue to do the work. So the longer it takes to have these pathways turned back on, the harder it will be to stand the operations back up.
Yeah.
So critically, we need to do this as soon as we can so that we can keep that promise that we made to our Afghan allies, and so that we can continue to say that we keep the promises we make to our allies writ large.
The last thing I'd like to say before we go to Q&A is I've had just the great privilege of a lifetime of getting to know Medina. And, it frustrates me very much when there's this sense that we block them off. And that, as you're all saying, the vetting is, we've been trying to get her family here for so long and they all helped America. So the vetting is, extreme. And also, I don't understand why people can't see what they bring to America, right? Since Nagina has been here, she and Mr. Hamidi, imagine the circumstances they were talking about and what they built and the bravery they had to get up to work every day and bring justice in the organization and all that work that they did. And now they're here in America and they're doing amazing work here, right? We are lucky in America to have them. And, they should be American citizens. And I know too, Nagina and I talked a lot. She would love someday to go back to Afghanistan, her homeland, and rebuild it. And I think y'all should run the place, right? But they're extraordinary people. And I just wanted y'all to see every day that the privilege of I get of working with you, the 200,000 and more that we should bring here, that would be a privilege of Americans to be among. So thank you all. We're gonna close the live link, and then we're gonna go into Q&A.